I feel like I say this like every single month, but I cannot believe it is already April. Wild to me. And I had a really amazing March. I had like a pretty wide variety of genres and different kinds of reads, and most of them were really good. I think actually there was just one that was like not really my favorite. But to start off the month, I decided to read an arc called Jane Austen's Garden by Molly Williams, and this was kind of like a book about flowers and gardens and stuff that was in like Jane Austen's kind of era, and then it also was filled with like crafts and DIYs and how-tos, but like cute little flower arrangements and how to make lavender water. Nice little things like that. It was gorgeous too. The illustrations throughout were beautiful, and I would love to eventually purchase a copy of this when it comes out, because I definitely feel like holding the physical copy and like touching the actual pages would be an even better experience than reading it on a tablet. And I already rated it 5 stars, so can it get any better? Technically no, but yes. Then I finally finished this collection of poetry called Japanese Death Poems. This one took me a couple of months. I think I started it in January actually, but it was one that I really wanted to read slowly and kind of let sink in and sort of take in really slowly, because obviously it's a pretty dark subject. These are poems that like Zen monks and also haiku poets wrote on the brink of death, basically. Some of them was months before they died or years before they died, but they called it their death poem. But this was an absolutely gorgeous read. It gave a lot of history about the poets and the poems, and for some of them also the meaning behind them, which was really cool. It was fun to learn about different cultures while also taking in poetry. And I did end up rating this one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It is pretty thick for a poetry collection, but if you are at all into poetry and this seems like it could be interesting, I highly recommend it. It was so interesting to read, and it's definitely one that I'm going to be picking up from time to time and just like probably landing on a page and just like read that particular poem. It's one where like they're all pretty beautiful. You can't really go wrong. Next, I listened to the audiobook Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and this one I borrowed from my library. It was really great because it was narrated by the author, which added a little something special to it, because Matthew McConaughey obviously has a super cool voice. I wasn't sure at first how I felt about it, just because it didn't really feel like my kind of vibe, if that makes sense. Just the way he was talking and stuff, I wasn't sure if I was gonna click really well with him, but he definitely grew on me towards the end of the book, and I ended up really enjoying it. And I feel like if you're a Matthew McConaughey fan, you will definitely enjoy this. I also realized that I really have not seen a lot of stuff with Matthew McConaughey. Like, I'm pretty sure the only thing I've seen with him is Magic Mike, unless I'm forgetting something. But no, like, I honestly don't think I've seen anything else. And I think I've said before that I do really want to see Dallas Buyers Club. That's one that I've always wanted to see, but I just haven't got around to it yet. Anyway, it was a very good book. I don't rate memoirs, but if you're like me and you like listening to memoirs read by the author, this one was really good for that. After that, I read this poetry collection by Nikita Gill called Where Hope Comes From, and this one was absolutely 5 stars. It was gorgeous. I read it in one sitting. To top off the beautiful poetry, there is also beautiful illustrations throughout that just somehow add something to it and make it even better. It's stunning collection, honestly. It was so beautiful. Nikita Gill wrote poems in this about like loneliness, and I think she actually wrote it during the pandemic, so obviously there was a lot of loneliness going around at that point. There's also like stuff about anxiety, and something that I really loved is that she was constantly like kind of making metaphors and comparing people to stars and stardust, and it was just so freaking gorgeous. I also really loved that every single piece in this felt unique, but it still kind of went with the theme, because I find like a lot of poetry collections, sometimes like the poems can start feeling a bit repetitive, but this one was not like that at all. It stayed really fresh the whole time, which was really nice, and I think that's why I actually ended up reading it in one sitting. Next, I finally picked up The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I do not know what took me so damn long to read this book, because I've had it on my shelf since like 2018 or 2019. I think 2019. But 5 stars. Holy guacamole. It lives up to the hype. I'll just say that. I had such high expectations for this book going into it, and I didn't think that it was actually going to meet those expectations, and it went above and beyond. It was so good. And now I definitely also need to watch the show because I have never done that either. I always wanted to read the book first, and I need to do that. I also have to say, if you have never read The Handmaid's Tale and you want like a little feeling of what like the vibe is going to be like, look up Labor by Paris Paloma. Freaking love that song. That's the feeling, honestly. The feminine rage. Perfect. I could go on about Handmaid's Tale like all night. I'm not going to, but I could. After that, I reread Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too by Jomny Sun, and this was once again 5 stars. I think I've read it 3 times now. And if you have never read this, you too should really read it because it is the most adorable but also like existential, cutesy little graphic novel you will ever read in your whole entire life. It seems so simple from like the drawings and stuff, but let me tell you, this book packs a freaking punch. It covers so much feeling and emotion and existential sort of topics that you would not think you'd get from like a cute little graphic novel, but here we are. It is perfect and I can't recommend this enough. I literally would recommend this to absolutely everyone. Like, you cannot go wrong with this book, I'm telling you. Oh my goodness. Even just talking about it makes me want to like reread it right now because I love it literally that much. Whoop! Say hello to camera, hello! So after that, I ended up picking up Where Darkness Blooms by Andrea Hanna, and I was so excited for this book. The cover is gorgeous. The concept was such a neat idea. It was like sunflowers can kind of listen to you and are somewhat sentient beings, and spooky stuff's going around in a town where women keep going missing or turning up dead and nobody really knows why, and it's kind of just normal for them. And it seemed like it was going to be such a fun read, and it just was not for me, honestly. I ended up rating it 2 stars, and I have to say there was just way too much going on with too many characters that their storylines just all started blurring together in a way. I feel like it would have been a lot better had the author stuck to maybe 1, possibly 2 narrators. I feel like it would have been probably just better with 1 though, because then maybe we could have gotten inside of their head a little bit more and felt more of like the tension. But the way it was written, I felt like anytime there was any tense moment or I felt even the slightest bit of like suspense, it would flip over to another character and that would just be broken, and I felt like I was like constantly being ripped out of the story, and it just was not for me. It also felt a little too YA. Like, I feel like this would have been better as just adult horror. I think it would have been a lot scarier. I don't know. I feel like I'm also not the target audience for this book, maybe. So I did end up putting it in a little free library, and I'm hoping that whoever stumbles upon it will actually end up loving it, because this book does deserve to be loved by the right person. I'm just unfortunately not that person. Luckily, after that, I ended up picking up One Cup at a Time, a Cat's Cafe collection by Matt Tarpley. My boyfriend was basically begging me to read this for like a month solid, and I finally caved and picked it up, and I freaking loved it so much. It was 5 stars. He was 100% right in trying to get me to read this because it was such a fun time, and I will definitely be picking it up again in the future. It's like, once again, another cutesy graphic novel, but like touches on a little bit more serious topics, and it has a very diverse group of characters who are like animals and insects and stuff. I don't want to spoil it, but if you like stuff like Cryptid Club by Sarah Anderson or like Twistwood Tales by A.C. McDonald or anything kind of like that, this one is definitely for you too. Then I listened to the audiobook Murder on the Inside by Catherine Fogarty, and this is a true crime nonfiction novel about a riot that happened at the Kingston Penitentiary in 1973, I believe. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it's like already just not in my brain anymore. I'm the worst when it comes to that. Like, I'll read a book and 2 weeks later I cannot tell you what it was about, but it was about a riot that happened at the Kingston Penitentiary, and basically this riot was not because the inmates wanted to escape, but because they wanted to be treated like humans and live a little bit better. I know obviously that is a very controversial topic, especially depending on what the criminal did, but this was a very interesting read. I think the author did a really good job at getting a lot of people's different like perspectives and stuff, so like She had perspectives from the guards, from some of the inmates, and she herself felt very like neutral describing it all, which was really good. And it was just very well written as well. She obviously did a lot of research while writing this book, and that definitely came across. I actually also ended up rating this one 5 stars. I feel like I gave out so many 5-star ratings this month, but I just read a lot of freaking good books, but this one definitely really good. I did not know how it was going to be as an audiobook because like true crime as an audiobook is always kind of hit or miss, but this one was done really, really well. After that, I received another arc, which I was super excited about. This one was like a feminine rage kind of thriller called Always the Quiet Ones by Jamie Lee Sun. So sorry if I'm not saying that name correctly, but this book was 4 stars. It was so good and suspenseful. Everything you want a thriller to be, and the feminine rage was depicted in a way that made me feel rage, honestly, especially like the first few chapters. Oof. I got sucked into it so quickly, and I was there for any morally gray, questionable decision the main character made after that. I did dock a star and not give it 5 stars just because it didn't exactly go the way I had hoped, and the ending was good, but it's not satisfying to me, if that makes sense. I don't exactly want to say what I wish it would have been because I'm not here to spoil anything for anybody, but all that being said, it was still such a good read. And if you like stuff like Gone Girl or Girl on the Train, or like, I don't know, just stuff like that, that's like feminine rage meets morally gray character, I do really think that you would like this one. And then lastly, I just finished this one the other day. I listened to another audiobook from my library called The Body Keeps the Score. This one was recommended to me by my therapist. She thought it would be very helpful for me to read, and my god, she was right. She's always right, honestly. It was definitely very beneficial for me to read it at this point in my life. I think that it's definitely not for everybody, but if you are looking to learn more about like trauma and anxiety and other mental health issues and how they affect your body and your physical well-being, this one is a very interesting read, and I feel like I learned a lot regarding that kind of stuff. It's definitely one that I'm going to remember for like ever, and it also really inspired me to try to probably incorporate calm sort of stress relieving yoga in more of my day-to-day life, because I do yoga but not nearly enough. I kind of fell out of that routine, so this book kind of inspired me to maybe pick that back up, as well as like other relaxing things just to like chill. I feel like everybody needs that in their life. So if you feel like you need inspiration for that too. I will say though, it is a very tough read. There are a lot of stories about different people's childhood abuse, and there's talks of obviously sexual abuse, violence, stuff like that. So if that stuff makes you feel uncomfortable, or you just don't think that you can read something like that, I would probably recommend skipping this one. So that is everything that I read in March. Like I said, I had an amazing March, and I can only hope that April is going to be just as good, if not better. But honestly, I'm just hoping for just as good at this point. Like only one bad read. That's a pretty dang good month, honestly. Let me know in the comments how many books you read in March and what were they, what were your ratings, that sort of thing. With that, I am going to leave this video here. I hope you have a great rest of your week and happy reading.